Senator Alex Padilla just delivered one of the most dramatic, self-indulgent monologues we've seen on the Senate floor. He claims he was forced to the ground, handcuffed, marched out like a criminal just for trying to ask a question. But when you listen closely, it's less about civil rights and much more about crafting a made-for-TV moment to attack President Trump, as usual. So stick around after this clip, because in the next clip, Padilla doubles down and accuses the entire Trump administration of launching a partisan war on blue cities. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Hit like, subscribe, and let's get into it.
Now, throughout this country's history, we've had conflict, we've had tumult, but we've never had a tyrant as a commander-in-chief. And that is not by coincidence. It's because the American people have always been willing to speak up and exercise their First Amendment right to protest, especially when our fundamental rights have been threatened. And as the proud son of immigrants from Mexico, it's that same right that I came to revere when marching through the streets with my family and my friends in 1994 in Los Angeles, protesting against the vile anti-immigrant rhetoric that was growing in California at that time. It was that year that a Republican governor was up for re-election and was down in the polls. And he turned to scapegoating immigrants to try to improve his political standing and his re-election chances. That fight is what inspired me to leave an engineering career behind and dedicate myself to trying to influence our government and our politics. So I've seen this before. California has seen this before. So last week, when I heard something so blatantly un-American from the Secretary of Homeland Security, a cabinet official, of course I was compelled, both as a senator and as an American, to speak up. But before I could even get out my question, I was physically and aggressively forced out of the room, even as I repeatedly announced I was a United States Senator and I had a question for the Secretary. And even as the National Guardsman and the FBI agent who served as my escorts and brought me into that press briefing room stood by, silently, knowing full well who I was. You've seen the video. I was pushed and pulled, struggled to maintain my balance. I was forced to the ground, first on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained? Not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have a moment like this. But I will tell you, in that moment, a lot of questions came to my mind. First of all, where are they taking me? Because I know I'm not just being escorted out of the building. Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States Senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question? And what will my wife think? What will our boys think? And I also remember asking myself, if this aggressive escalation is the result of someone speaking up against the abuses and overreach of the Trump administration, was it really worth it? But colleagues, how many Americans in our nation's history have marched, have protested, have shed blood, even lost their lives to protect our rights? How many Americans have served in wars overseas to protect our freedoms here at home? And how many Americans in the year 2025 see a vindictive president on a tour of retribution, unrestrained by the majority of this separate and co-equal branch of government, and wonder if it's worth it to stand up or to speak out? If a United States senator becomes too afraid to speak up, how can we expect any other American to do the same?
And here's where it goes from theatrical to full-blown delusional. In the next clip, Padilla turns his personal drama into a sweeping indictment of the Trump administration, claiming that they're waging a political war on every blue city in America, and calling it authoritarian. He calls it illegal. And yes, he makes himself the victim once again. Let's roll this.
You guys come.
Thank you, Leader Schumer. And of course, I want to thank not just my colleagues, but most importantly, my wife, my sons, for their love, their support, always, but particularly this last week, which has been so tough for so many. Thank you all for being here, for listening. I'm hoping that you all saw and heard my remarks on the floor just a little while ago. And I do thank so many of my colleagues that took time out of their busy schedules to be there, to listen, and to support. Now, I won't repeat the entire speech, but I do think there's a couple things worth emphasizing, a couple things worth calling out, beginning with the fact that we are on record as a United Senate Democratic Caucus calling for President Trump to withdraw the military from the city of Los Angeles. We cannot and will not stand by while this administration attempts to militarize our cities and to ignore the laws passed by this Congress. As I mentioned during my floor speech, today the focus is Los Angeles. But the administration has laid the groundwork to try to do this in any city, in any state in the country. And that's just wrong. Also, what happened to me last week was really not about me. If this is how the administration responds to a United States senator who simply wants to ask a question as part of our oversight responsibility as Congress, then imagine what they are capable of doing and what they are doing to people all across the country right now when cameras are not rolling. I'm speaking up because this is about every single American who cherishes our Constitution, our freedoms, and our rights. Federalizing California's National Guard and bypassing the governor's authority should be a wake-up call to everybody. As I said, it's happening in California today, but it can happen in any state tomorrow. Now, on Friday, I did have a small glimmer of hope because I heard an announcement by the administration that the president ordered the Department of Homeland Security to kind of pull back from aggressive enforcement actions in hotels, in restaurants, and in agricultural fields. I thought maybe that was a baby step in the right direction. Well, even before they reversed that directive yesterday, more chaos, more confusion, there was also that announcement that bears highlighting. Yesterday morning, we saw that Trump, via social media, has said, oh no, we are doubling down on our targeting of big blue cities. It's a blatant partisan attack and nothing less. We all have a responsibility to speak out. That was my appeal to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. We all have a responsibility to speak out and push back before it is too late. You all saw what happened when I had the audacity to ask a question. And despite that, I will continue to speak up because I will not and we cannot give in to the overreach of this administration. Thank you.
What Padilla delivered, it's not courage, it's theater. There's no answers, no accountability, just scripted outrage and endless victimhood. And while he accuses Trump of tyranny, he ignores the chaos and his own party is unleashing in those same cities. That's not leadership, it's projection, and it won't stand. America is too smart for this. This is Andy with TrendingPolitics.com. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and I'll see you next time.